Admiral Vex Tar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Stellar Dominion. The massive ship was 3 kilometers long and filled with the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. Around him, hundreds of crew members worked at glowing control panels. Outside the main viewing window, space stretched endlessly in all directions. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled the stars for 500 years. Their fleet controlled 847 star systems across 3 arms of the galaxy. No enemy had ever defeated them in battle. No species had ever challenged their power. They were the masters of space, and everyone knew it. Today, Vex Tar was reading reports about a small blue planet in a distant corner of the galaxy. The planet was called Earth, and it orbited a yellow star far from any important trade routes. The intelligence reports made him smile. These humans were still using chemical rockets to reach their own moon. They fought wars with metal bullets and explosive devices. Their technology was centuries behind the Empire. "Sir," said his communications officer, a tall Zephyrian with purple skin and 4 arms. "The High Council wants to speak with you." Vex Tar touched a control, and 3 holographic figures appeared in front of him. They were the leaders of the Empire, the beings who decided the fate of entire worlds. Their images flickered slightly as the signal traveled across thousands of light years. "Admiral," said the first council member, "we have been discussing the human situation. Some of us believe they are too primitive to be worth our attention." "I disagree," Vex Tar replied. His voice was calm but firm. "These humans are spreading across their star system. They have colonies on several planets and moons. They are also sending signals into space, trying to contact other species. If we leave them alone, they might become dangerous." The second council member laughed. "Dangerous? They still use projectile weapons. Our shields can stop their strongest missiles without any effort." "That may be true now," Vex Tar said, "but species can develop quickly. Better to deal with them while they are still weak." The third council member nodded slowly. "The Admiral has a point. It would be a simple matter to bring them under our control. They would provide useful resources and labor." "Very well," said the first council member. "Admiral Vex Tar, you will take the Third Fleet to this Earth system. Offer them the standard terms of surrender. If they refuse, demonstrate our power until they submit." Vex Tar smiled. The Third Fleet consisted of 200 ships, including 20 heavy cruisers and 5 dreadnoughts. It was more than enough firepower to destroy every human settlement in their entire star system. "How long should I give them to consider our offer?" Vex Tar asked. "These primitives should be grateful for the chance to join our empire." The second council member said, "Give them 1 day to surrender. If they refuse, show them what happens to species who defy us." The holographic images disappeared, leaving Vex Tar alone with his crew. He turned to his navigation officer. "Set course for the Sol system. Alert all ships in the Third Fleet to prepare for departure." "Yes, sir," the officer replied. "Estimated travel time is 47 days at maximum warp." As the fleet prepared to leave, Vex Tar studied the intelligence reports again. The humans had approximately 8 billion individuals living on their home planet. They had small colonies on their moon, on a red planet they called Mars, and on several moons around the outer planets of their system. Their technology was improving, but very slowly, by galactic standards. The reports showed that humans often fought wars among themselves. This was common among primitive species. They had not yet learned to unite under a single government. This would make conquest easier, as different human groups might surrender separately rather than work together. Vex Tar's tactical officer approached him. "Sir, should we prepare boarding parties for the human ships?" "I doubt that will be necessary," Vex Tar replied. "Their largest spacecraft are tiny cargo vessels and scientific research ships. We could destroy their entire fleet with a single volley from our main guns." "What about their ground forces?" "Even simpler. Humans are physically weak compared to most galactic species. They require breathing masks to survive in different atmospheres. A single company of our troops could control an entire human city. The other officers on the bridge laughed. They had all served in previous conquests. The pattern was always the same. The Empire would arrive with overwhelming force, demand surrender, and the target species would submit within hours or days. Sometimes there would be brief resistance, but it never lasted long. As the Third Fleet entered hyperspace, Vexi Tar felt confident about the mission. The humans would see the size of his fleet and immediately understand their situation. They would surrender without a fight, grateful to be allowed to live under Imperial rule. The journey to Earth took 46 days. During that time, Vex Tar reviewed battle plans and studied more intelligence reports. The humans seemed to spend most of their time on economic activities and entertainment. They showed little interest in military development compared to other activities. When the fleet finally arrived at the edge of the Sol system, Vex Tar stood on his bridge and looked out at the human star. It was smaller and yellower than the Zephyrian home star, but it looked pleasant enough. "Begin long-range scans," he ordered. "Yes, sir," replied his science officer, detecting multiple human settlements as expected. The third planet shows heavy population concentrations, several space stations in orbit, mining operations in the asteroid belt between the fourth and fifth planets. Any military installations? Nothing significant, sir. A few small defense platforms around their home world. Some patrol ships near the mining operations. Their total military fleet appears to consist of fewer than 50 vessels, most of them very small. Vex Tar nodded with satisfaction. "Excellent. Open a communication channel to the human government." "Channel open, sir." "Attention, humans of Earth," Vex Tar began, his voice carrying across space toward the blue planet. "I am Admiral Vex Tar of the Zephyrian Empire. You will surrender your star system immediately and accept Imperial rule. You have one standard day to respond." As the message traveled toward Earth, Vex Tar noticed something odd on his sensor displays. There was a large object in the asteroid belt, much larger than the mining stations mentioned in the intelligence reports. It appeared to be some kind of space station, but the energy readings were unusual. "Science officer," he said, "what is that object in the asteroid field?" The officer studied his instruments carefully. "Unknown, sir. It appears to be artificial, but I cannot get clear readings through the surrounding asteroid debris. Should we investigate?" "Not yet," Vex Tar decided. "Let us see how the humans respond to our message first. If they surrender peacefully, we can examine their installations at our leisure." But as he watched the mysterious object on his screens, Vex Tar felt the first small doubt about this mission. Something about those energy readings seemed very strange for a primitive mining operation. The response from Earth came 12 hours later, much faster than Vex Tar had expected. Most primitive species took the full time limit to argue among themselves before surrendering. But the human message was calm and professional. "Admiral Vex Tar," said a human voice in clear galactic standard language. "This is Admiral Park Min-jun of the Terran Defense Force. We have received your message and are currently discussing your proposal with our government leaders. We respectfully request that your fleet maintain a safe distance from our planets while we consider our response." Vex Tar frowned. The human had spoken as if this were a normal diplomatic meeting, not a demand for total surrender. Even more strange, the human had used the term Terran Defense Force, suggesting an organized military structure. "Science officer," Vex Tar said, "run a detailed scan of the human fleet movements." "Yes, sir." The officer worked at his controls for several minutes. "Sir, this is unusual. Human ships are moving throughout their system, but not in a panic pattern. They appear to be taking organized defensive positions." "Defensive positions?" Vex Tar moved to look at the tactical display. Small dots representing human ships were indeed moving in coordinated formations. How many ships are we detecting now? 80. TAS. 80A. The count keeps changing, sir. Ships keep appearing from behind asteroids and moons. Current count is over 200 vessels. Vextar stared at the display. The intelligence reports had said fewer than 50 human ships existed in the entire system. Either the reports were completely wrong, or the humans had been hiding most of their fleet. Communications officer, send another message to this Admiral Park. Tell him he has 6 hours to surrender, not the full day. Message sent, sir. While they waited for a response, Vextar studied the human ship movements more carefully. The vessels were small compared to Imperial ships, but they moved with precision. More troubling, they seemed to be coordinating their movements across the entire star system in real time. Sir, said the tactical officer, I am detecting some unusual readings from the human ships. What kind of readings? Their hulls appear very thin, almost fragile. But internal scans show extensive compartmentalization. Also, they seem to carry much larger crews than necessary for ships of their size. Perhaps they are simply inefficient, Vextar said. But he was beginning to feel uncomfortable about this mission. The human response came 4 hours later. Again, it was Admiral Park, speaking in that same calm voice. Admiral Vextar, our government has carefully considered your proposal. We appreciate the offer to join your empire, but we must respectfully decline. Earth has decided to remain independent. We hope this will not damage future relations between our peoples. Vextar could not believe what he was hearing. The human was refusing the Empire's generous offer and speaking as if humans and Zephyrians were equals. Communications officer, open a direct channel. Channel open, sir. Admiral Park, Vextar said, allowing anger to enter his voice. Perhaps you do not understand your situation. My fleet contains 200 warships capable of destroying your entire civilization. You will surrender immediately or face the consequences. There was a pause before Park responded. Admiral, I understand your fleet's capabilities perfectly well. I also understand my own. Please reconsider your position before this situation becomes unfortunate for both of us. Vextar ended the communication and turned to his officers. The humans are either insane or hiding something. Begin detailed scans of their entire system. I want to know what gives them such confidence. The science officer worked frantically at his controls. Sir, I am detecting massive energy sources throughout the asteroid belt. The readings suggest industrial facilities much larger than anything in our intelligence reports. Show me. The main display changed to show the asteroid belt in detail. What had looked like random space rocks and small mining stations was actually a complex network of connected facilities. Cables and transport tubes linked hundreds of asteroids together in an intricate pattern. How long would it take to build something like this? Vextar asked. Decades, sir. Maybe longer. This represents an enormous investment of time and resources. Vextar felt a chill run through his body. The humans had been planning for this day for a very long time. They had not just hidden their true capabilities from Imperial intelligence. They had been actively preparing for war. What about that large object we detected earlier? Still cannot get clear readings, sir. But the energy signature is growing stronger. Sir, called the tactical officer. Human ships are moving into attack formations around our fleet. Vextar looked at the tactical display and saw that human vessels were indeed surrounding his fleet at long range. They maintained careful distances, staying just outside the range of Imperial weapons. But their formation was clearly military in nature. How many ships are we facing now? Over 400, sir. And more keep appearing. Vextar made a decision. Target the nearest human outpost and fire a demonstration shot. Show them what our weapons can do. Target acquired, sir. A brilliant beam of energy lanced out from the stellar dominion and struck a small human space station. The structure exploded in a flash of light and debris. For a moment, there was silence across all communication channels. Then Admiral Park's voice came through again, but this time It sounded different. Colder. Admiral Vex Tar. That station contained 47 research scientists. They were studying ways to improve crop growth on Mars. You have just committed an act of war against a peaceful scientific mission. Then surrender now. Vextar replied. Before we destroy something more important. I'm afraid that is no longer possible, Park said. You have forced us to reveal capabilities we hoped to keep hidden. All personnel should prepare for combat operations. As Park spoke, something began happening in the asteroid belt. The large object that had been hidden among the rocks started to move. Massive sections of what had looked like asteroid surface began folding away, revealing metal hull plates underneath. Science officer, what are we looking at? The officer stared at his instruments in disbelief. Sir, it's not a space station. It's a ship. A single ship. But the size readings must be wrong. Why? What size are you getting? 15 kilometers long, sir. 3 kilometers wide. If these readings are correct, it's larger than our entire fleet combined. Vextar watched in growing horror as the massive human vessel continued to unfold itself from its asteroid disguise. Weapon ports opened along its hull, like eyes opening in the darkness. Launch bays big enough to hold entire squadrons of fighters became visible as armor plates retracted. Communications from Admiral Park, sir. Put him through. Admiral Vextar, Park said, his voice now completely professional. This is your final warning. Remove your fleet from our star system immediately. If you do not comply, we will consider your continued presence an invasion and respond accordingly. Vextar stared at the impossible ship on his display. Everything about this mission had gone wrong. The humans were not primitive. They were not defenseless. They had been preparing for galactic contact for decades. But he was an admiral of the Zephyrian Empire. He would not retreat from primitives, no matter how large their ship might be. All ships, prepare for battle, he ordered. We will show these humans the true power of the Empire. The massive human ship finished unfolding from its asteroid disguise, and Vextar finally understood what his fleet was facing. The vessel was enormous, beyond anything he had ever seen. Its hull stretched 15 kilometers from bow to stern, covered in armor plates that seemed to shift and move like living scales. Sir, his tactical officer said, voice shaking slightly. Weapon scans are showing over 10,000 individual gun ports on that ship. Launch bays for thousands of fighter craft. The defensive systems alone are larger than most of our capital ships. Admiral Park's voice came through the communication system one more time. Admiral Vextar. This is the TDF Leviathan. You attacked our research station and killed 47 innocent people. We offered you the chance to leave peacefully. You chose war instead. Vextar looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at the tactical displays with expressions of shock and fear. The confident mood from earlier had completely disappeared. But he was still an Imperial admiral, and the Empire had never retreated from any battle. All ships. Attack formation. Delta 7. He ordered. Concentrate fire on the center section of the human vessel. No single ship can withstand the combined firepower of the Imperial fleet. The Third Fleet moved into position. 200 warships, arranging themselves in a complex pattern designed to overwhelm enemy defenses. It was a formation that had won dozens of battles against other galactic powers. Sir, the human ship is launching fighters, the tactical officer reported. How many? I can't get an accurate count. Hundreds. Maybe thousands. They're coming out of launch bays all along the hull. Vextar watched the tactical display as wave after wave of small human craft poured out of the Leviathan. But these were not the crude fighters described in Imperial intelligence reports. They moved in tight formations with military precision. All ships, commence firing, Vextar ordered. 200 Imperial warships opened fire simultaneously. Beams of energy, powerful enough to destroy cities, lanced across space toward the human vessel. The combined firepower should have been enough to crack a moon in half. The energy beams struck the Leviathan's armor and simply disappeared. The massive ship's hull seemed to absorb the energy without any visible damage at all. "Sir, no effect on target," the tactical officer reported unnecessarily. "Impossible. Run a diagnostic on all weapon systems. Weapons are functioning perfectly, sir. The human ship appears to have some kind of adaptive armor. The hull is dissipating our energy weapons across its entire surface." Before Vex's tar could respond, the Leviathan fired back. Thousands of weapon ports opened along its hull, and streams of projectiles and energy beams poured toward the Imperial fleet. But the human weapons were different from anything in galactic military databases. "Incoming projectiles are not energy-based," the science officer called out. "They appear to be physical rounds, moving at significant fractions of light speed." The first wave of human projectiles struck the Imperial shields and punched through them as if they did not exist. Kinetic weapons, moving at near light speed, carried enormous amounts of energy. Ships that had been protected by shields for centuries suddenly found themselves vulnerable. "Evasive maneuvers," Vextar shouted, but it was too late. The stellar dominion shook as human projectiles struck its hull. Damage reports flooded in from all over the ship. The engine room reported power fluctuations. The weapons deck reported 3 main guns offline. The medical bay reported casualties. Around the flagship, other Imperial ships were suffering similar damage. The humans seemed to know exactly where to hit each vessel to cause maximum damage while avoiding critical life support systems. "Sir, the human fighters are engaging our squadrons," the tactical officer reported. Vextar looked at the fighter combat display and felt his confidence crumble further. Imperial fighters had always dominated space combat through superior technology and training. But the human pilots were outmaneuvering them with ease. "How are they flying like that?" Vextar demanded. "Unknown, sir. Their ships appear less advanced than ours, but their pilots seem to know our tactics better than we do." Admiral Park's voice came through the communication system again. "Imperial fleet, you are taking unnecessary casualties. Surrender now, and we will treat your wounded and repair your ships." "Never," Vextar replied. "The Empire does not surrender to primitives." "As you wish," Park said calmly. The Leviathan's attack intensified. More weapon systems came online, filling space with a deadly crossfire that made it almost impossible for Imperial ships to maneuver safely. But the human targeting was precise. They aimed for engines, weapons, and communication systems. They were disabling Imperial ships, not destroying them. "Sir, they're trying to capture our ships intact," the tactical officer realized. "Why would they want our ships?" "Unknown, but they're definitely avoiding damage to crew areas and life support systems." Vextar watched as more and more of his fleet became disabled. The humans fought with a level of coordination that seemed impossible. Every ship, every fighter, every weapon system worked together as if controlled by a single mind. "Sir, long-range sensors are detecting more human ships approaching from the outer system," the science officer reported. "How many?" "At least 100 more. And sir, some of them are as large as our dreadnoughts." Vextar felt despair beginning to creep into his thoughts. The intelligence reports had been completely wrong. The humans were not primitive. They had been planning for this day for decades, building ships and training crews in secret. "Communications officer, try to contact the High Council." "I cannot, sir. The humans are jamming our long-range communications." Of course they were. The humans had planned for everything. They had studied Imperial technology and tactics. They knew exactly how the Empire fought wars, and they had prepared accordingly. Another wave of human projectiles struck the Imperial fleet. More ships went dark as their engines failed. Emergency signals filled the communication channels as crews reported critical damage. "Sir, we have lost 40% of the fleet," the tactical officer reported. Most of the remaining ships have significant damage. Vex Tar looked at the tactical display and saw the truth. His proud fleet was being systematically destroyed by a single human ship and its escorts. The Leviathan moved through space like a predator, choosing targets and eliminating them with surgical precision. "Admiral Vex Tar," Park's voice came through the speakers again. "You have lost this battle. Your choice now is between the complete destruction of your fleet or the survival of your crews. Surrender, and we will treat your people with honor." Vex Tar closed his eyes. In 500 years, no Imperial admiral had ever surrendered to an enemy fleet. But in 500 years, the Empire had never faced an enemy like the humans. Around him, his bridge crew waited for his decision. Outside, the Leviathan continued its methodical destruction of the Imperial fleet. And in the depths of space, more human ships were approaching to finish what the Leviathan had started. For the first time in his career, Admiral Vex Tar faced the possibility that the Empire could lose a war. The battle had been raging for 3 hours, and Admiral Vex Tar's proud fleet was dying. More than half of his ships were either destroyed or so badly damaged they could no longer fight. The Stellar Dominion itself had lost main power twice and was running on backup systems. "Sir, the cruiser Voidhammer is requesting permission to retreat," his communications officer reported. "Denied," Vex Tar said automatically, but his voice lacked conviction. Around him, his bridge crew looked exhausted and defeated. Damage reports continued to flood in from all sections of the ship. The Leviathan moved through the battlefield like a force of nature. Its massive bulk seemed unstoppable as it systematically disabled one Imperial ship after another. Human fighters swarmed around the giant vessel like protective insects, intercepting any Imperial craft that tried to get close. "Sir, I'm detecting something new," the science officer said, studying his instruments with a puzzled expression. "What now?" "The human ship appears to be manufacturing replacement fighters during the battle. Internal scans show active construction bays, building new craft, as fast as the old ones are lost." Vex Tar stared at the officer in disbelief. "That's impossible. No ship can carry that level of industrial capability. According to these readings, sir, the Leviathan isn't just a warship. It's a mobile factory. A floating city. The crew complement must be enormous." The tactical display showed the true scale of what they were facing. The human vessel wasn't just larger than the Imperial fleet. It was more advanced in ways that Imperial scientists had never imagined. While the Empire had focused on building many smaller ships, the humans had built one massive vessel that could do everything. "Admiral Vex Tar," came Admiral Park's voice over the communication system. "Your fleet has fought bravely, but this battle is over. Will you continue to sacrifice your crews for nothing?" Before Vex's Tar could respond, his tactical officer called out urgently. "Sir!" New contacts approaching from the edge of the system. Multiple large vessels. The main display shifted to show long-range sensors. A new group of ships was indeed approaching, but these were not the small human craft they had been fighting. These vessels were massive, each one nearly as large as an Imperial dreadnought. "How many?" Vex Tar asked. 12 ships, sir, and they're moving in perfect formation." Vex Tar felt what remained of his hope disappear. The humans had more ships. Not just fighters and escorts, but capital ships capable of matching Imperial dreadnoughts in size and firepower. "Communications from the approaching fleet, sir." "Put it through." A new human voice came through the speakers, calm and professional like Admiral Park. "Imperial Fleet. This is Admiral Chen Mei Ling of the 2nd Defense Group. You are now surrounded. Surrender immediately, and you will be treated according to galactic conventions of war." Surrounded. Vex Tar looked at his tactical display and saw the truth. The approaching human ships were moving to cut off any possible retreat routes. His fleet was trapped in the Sol system, with no way to escape. "Sir," his first officer said quietly, "perhaps it is time to consider our options." Vex Tar looked around his bridge. His officers were loyal, but they were not stupid. They could see that continuing to fight would only result in more death for no purpose. "What are our current casualties?" he asked. 43 ships destroyed or completely disabled, the tactical officer replied. 67 ships with major damage, but still operational. Estimated crew losses exceed 15,000, dead and wounded. 15,000 Imperial lives lost in a single battle. It was the worst defeat in the Empire's history. And for what? To conquer a species that had already proven they could defend themselves? "Sir, the Leviathan is moving toward us," the helmsman reported. Vextar watched as the massive human ship approached the stellar dominion. At close range, its size was even more impressive. The armor plates that covered its hull showed scorch marks from Imperial weapons, but no real damage. The ship had absorbed everything the Empire could throw at it, and emerged essentially unharmed. "They're not targeting us," the tactical officer observed. "They're just watching." The Leviathan stopped just outside weapons range and held position. Clearly, the humans were waiting for Vextar to make a decision. "Open a channel to Admiral Park," Vextar said finally. "Channel open, sir." "Admiral Park, this is Admiral Vextar. Before I consider your surrender terms, I want to understand something. How long have you been preparing for this day?" There was a pause before Park responded. "We detected the first signs of galactic civilization 47 years ago, Admiral. Radio signals from your trade routes. Energy signatures from your ships. We have been preparing ever since." 47 years, Vextar repeated. "You spent almost half a century getting ready to fight us." "We spent 47 years hoping we would never have to fight you," Park corrected. "We built the Leviathan and trained our crews, because we knew that someday someone would come to Earth with an ultimatum. We hoped it would never happen, but we were ready when it did." Vextar closed his eyes. The humans had not started this war. The Empire had. The humans had simply been prepared to finish it. "What are your surrender terms?" he asked. "All Imperial ships will power down weapons and shields. You will allow our boarding parties to secure your vessels and provide medical assistance to your wounded. Your crews will be treated as prisoners of war and given proper care until arrangements can be made for their return to Imperial space. And what happens to Earth? Earth remains independent," Park said firmly. "This system is now under Terran protection. Any future Imperial ships that enter Sol space will be required to request permission and state their peaceful intentions." Vextar looked around his bridge one more time. His crew was waiting for his decision. Outside, the human fleet continued to maintain their positions, ready to resume fighting if necessary. But Vextar was tired of fighting a battle he could not win. He was tired of watching his people die for the Empire's pride. "All ships," he said into his communicator. "This is Admiral Vextar. Cease all offensive operations. Power down weapons and shields. Prepare to receive human boarding parties." The bridge fell silent, except for the quiet hum of life support systems. Through the main viewer, Vextar watched as human ships began moving toward his disabled fleet. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "message from Admiral Park." "Put it through." "Admiral Vextar." Park's voice came through the speakers. "You have made the right choice. Your wounded will receive medical attention immediately. Your crews will be treated with honor and respect. When this is over, you will return to the Empire with a message of peace from Earth." Vextar nodded, though he knew Park could not see him. "I understand, Admiral. Thank you for your mercy." As human boarding craft approached the stellar dominion, Vextar realized that this day would change everything. The Empire had finally met a species it could not conquer, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 days after the battle ended, Admiral Vextar found himself in a conference room aboard the Leviathan. The human ship's interior was nothing like what he had expected. Instead of the crude metal corridors described in Imperial intelligence reports, He walked through wide passages lined with growing plants and artificial windows showing views of Earth. Admiral Park sat across from him at a polished wooden table. The human leader looked tired but satisfied. Between them lay a document that would change the relationship between Earth and the galaxy forever. "The medical teams report that your wounded are recovering well," Park said in his calm voice. "Our doctors have learned much about Zephyrian physiology in the past few days." Vextar nodded. The human medical staff had been efficient and professional, treating Imperial wounded with the same care they gave their own people. It was not what he had expected from primitives. "I must ask you something, Admiral Park," Vextar said. "Why did you not destroy my fleet completely?" Park leaned back in his chair and considered the question. "Because destruction was never our goal, Admiral. We built the Leviathan to defend ourselves, not to conquer others. We disabled your ships because we had to. We spared your lives because we wanted to. The Empire will not forget this defeat." "I hope not," Park replied. "But I also hope the Empire will learn from it. Earth has no desire to be your enemy. We simply wish to be left alone to develop in peace." Vextar looked at the treaty document between them. The terms were surprisingly generous. Earth would return all Imperial prisoners, unharmed. The Empire would recognize Earth as an independent power with full rights to its star system. Both sides would exchange ambassadors and begin formal diplomatic relations. "The High Council will want to know about your military capabilities," Vextar said. "Then tell them the truth," Park replied. "Tell them that Earth has prepared for decades to defend itself. Tell them that we have ships, weapons, and trained crews ready to protect our independence. But also tell them that we prefer peace to war." They will ask about the Leviathan. "How many ships like it do you have?" Park smiled slightly. "The Leviathan was our first ship of this design. It will not be our last. But Admiral, the number of ships we have is less important than our willingness to use them. Earth will defend itself against any threat, from any source." Vextar understood the message. The humans were not threatening the Empire, but they were making their position clear. Earth would not be conquered by anyone. "What happens now?" Vextar asked. "Now you return to the Empire with our treaty proposal. You tell your leaders what happened here. You help them understand that Earth is not their enemy, but neither are we their subjects. And if they refuse your terms?" Park's expression became serious. "Then they will discover that the Leviathan has sister ships, and that Earth has allies among other species who are tired of Imperial expansion." This was news to Vextar. Other species? The galaxy is full of worlds that have been forced to submit to the Empire. Some of them have been watching our battle with great interest. News of our victory is already spreading to every corner of galactic civilization. Vextar felt a chill. The defeat at Earth was not just a military loss. It was a symbol that the Empire could be beaten. Other subject worlds might begin to think about rebellion. "You realize what you have done," he said. "You may have started a galactic war." "We have ended one," Park corrected. "The Empire has been at war with the galaxy for 500 years. They have conquered, enslaved, and exploited hundreds of worlds. Today, that expansion stopped." Park stood and walked to one of the artificial windows. Outside, Earth hung in space like a blue jewel against the darkness. "We did not want this war, Admiral. We hoped that when the galaxy finally noticed us, it would be as equals meeting for the first time. Your Empire forced us to reveal our strength instead of our friendship." Vextar joined Park at the window. "My people have ruled the stars for centuries. It is difficult for them to accept that their rule might be ending." "Their rule is not ending," Park said. "It is changing. The Empire can still be a great power in the galaxy, but it must be one power among many, not the only power. The High Council will never accept that willingly. Then perhaps it is time for new leadership in the Empire. Leadership that understands the galaxy, has changed. They stood in silence for several minutes, watching Earth turn slowly below them. Finally, Vextar spoke again. When I was young, I believed the Empire brought order to chaos. I thought we were making the galaxy a better place. Perhaps you were, in the beginning, Park said. But power corrupts. Admiral, the Empire forgot that its purpose was to serve the people, not rule them. And Earth will be different? Earth will try to be different. We will make mistakes, but we will try to learn from them. That is all any civilization can do. A soft chime indicated that their meeting time was ending. Vextar's transport ship was ready to take him back to Imperial space, carrying the treaty proposal and the news of Earth's victory. Admiral Park, Vextar said formally, it has been an honor to meet you, even under these circumstances. The honor is mutual, Admiral Vextar. I hope the next time we meet, it will be in peace. As Vextar prepared to leave, Park handed him a small device. This contains our formal diplomatic proposal, along with technical specifications for a communication system that will allow direct contact between Earth and the Empire. We hope your leaders will use it wisely. 6 months later, Vextar stood before the High Council in the Great Chamber on Zephyr Prime. The three leaders listened in silence as he delivered his report. Around them, holographic displays showed images of the Leviathan and data on human military capabilities. So, said the first council member when Vextar finished, these humans propose to treat the Empire as an equal partner rather than a subject species. That is correct, Vextar replied. And they have the military power to enforce this proposal. They do. The three leaders conferred quietly among themselves for several minutes. Finally, the first council member spoke again. Admiral Vextar, you are hereby promoted to the rank of Grand Admiral and appointed as our first ambassador to Earth. You will return to the Sol system and negotiate a formal peace treaty with the humans. Vextar felt surprise and relief. He had expected punishment for his defeat, not promotion. The galaxy is changing, the second council member said. The Empire must change with it, or risk being left behind. What about the other subject worlds? Vextar asked. We will deal with that problem as it develops, the third council member replied. For now, our priority is establishing proper relations with Earth and learning from our mistakes. As Vextar left the council chamber, he felt a strange sense of hope. The Empire had ruled through fear and force for so long that he had forgotten what cooperation might look like. Perhaps the humans were right. Perhaps the galaxy was ready for something better than conquest and domination. And perhaps the Empire, humbled by defeat, was finally ready to learn.